guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is an entitled People Story. My name is Samantha, and this is the story of how I lost my dream home and my best friend on the same day. Last year, I had the opportunity to start a new job in a different state, so I decided to sell my old house and buy a new one in the city where I would be working. After searching for months, I finally found the perfect house. It was big, spacious, and had a beautiful garden. I immediately fell in love with it and bought it without hesitation. As my job was demanding, I decided to hire a house sitter to look after my new house and my beloved cat, Mr. Whiskers, while I was away. My best friend, Sarah, offered to help and I was thrilled. I trusted her more than anyone else in the world, so I felt relieved knowing that my house and cat were in good hands. Fast forward a few months, I came back home early from a business trip and I was excited to see my friend and cat. However, when I arrived at my front door, it was locked. I knocked, but nobody answered. I called Sarah, but she didn't pick up. I began to feel worried and called the police to help me get inside. After breaking the lock, we found Sarah living in my house, refusing to leave. She had moved all of her belongings in, and there were even empty pizza boxes scattered across the floor. I was shocked and hurt. I couldn't believe that my best friend had betrayed me like this. The police officers were on my side, but Sarah refused to leave my house, claiming that it was hers. She even called the police on me, saying that I was the intruder. It was a nightmare, and I felt helpless. After several days of legal battles, I finally won the case and got my house back. Sarah was arrested and charged with theft, trespassing, and fraud. She had forged my signature to transfer the property title to her name. It was a huge blow, and I couldn't believe that my best friend had done this to me. Months passed, and I started to get over the betrayal. I had even started to make new friends and enjoy my new job. However, one day, I received a package in the mail. It was a mysterious box, with no return address or explanation. I opened it, and inside was a letter from Sarah, apologizing for what she had done and asking for my forgiveness. She explained that she had been going through a tough time and had made a terrible mistake. She also included a key to my house, which she said she had duplicated before the police had taken her away. I was hesitant to trust her again, but I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. I went to my house, and to my surprise, everything was back to normal. Sarah had cleaned the house, repaired the damages, and even left a note for me and Mr. Whiskers, saying how sorry she was. I was moved by her effort and decided to forgive her. However, just as I was about to leave, I heard a loud noise coming from the back of the house. I walked towards the noise and saw Sarah, breaking into my house again. She had a crazed look in her eyes, and I could tell that she wasn't stable. She was determined to take my house back, and she was willing to do whatever it takes. We got into a heated argument, and things escalated quickly. She pulled out a gun and pointed it at me, demanding that I give her the keys to my house. I refused, and we started to fight over the gun. It was a dangerous situation, and I could feel my life flashing before my eyes. Just as Sarah was about to pull the trigger, the police arrived, and she was apprehended once again. I was shaken and scared, but relieved that it was over. Sarah was sentenced to jail time, and I decided to cut ties with her for good. It was a hard lesson to learn, but I realized that sometimes the people we trust the most can hurt us the most. As for my house, I decided to sell it and move to a new city. The memories of what happened there were too painful to bear. I found a new home, and although it wasn't as grand as my old one, it was a place where I felt safe and happy. I adopted a new cat, and life started to look up again. In the end, I learned that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes, it's better to let go and move on. And that's exactly what I did. The next story is titled A New Manager Was Older Than Me So Knew Best Way to Run an Event. I used to work part-time for my university, running student events. Experience is the best teacher. I had participated in these events as a student, assisted in them under someone else as part of my scholarship, and, as a staff member, ran the events myself. We had a new college head who was much older, approximately 50 to 60, while everyone else was in their early 20s. This woman was the most pig-headed, arrogant fool you can imagine, and despite being new, she wouldn't sit back and observe how things worked or listen to those on our team who'd been there for years. No matter what you told her, when she announced something that wouldn't work or would cause problems, the answer was the same: I'm older, so I know best. It didn't matter if it would take you longer to do it her way or, in one case, if it was technically illegal. Of course, mistakes that we'd warned her would happen were always someone else's fault, swept under the carpet. During event planning, one look at the schedule told me she hadn't allocated the team properly. Our email exchange went as follows. Op. Probably not a good idea to have the whole team in an hour before the event, most of them standing around doing nothing. It's best to get 5 or so people in for setup, most of the team in for running the event, and hold back another 3 to 4 for cleanup. College head. No, I want everyone in helping out equally an hour before the event. Op. They're only meant to do 2 hours of work per event. If you have them an hour early for a 2-hour event, that's 3 hours. They'll all leave before cleanup. The slackers will slack off, and the proactives will end up doing everything. College head. I'm older than you. I know best. Just do as you're told. Cue malicious compliance. Op. Fine, but I've got some personal business to do directly after the event. I'll handle procurement and setup, but I will need to leave right after the event is over. College head. That's fine. On the day of the event, the whole team showed up an hour before for setup. As expected, 5 or so did all the setup work, while most of the team stood around on their phones. Some even got bored and wandered off. It was not the team members' fault for standing around. Only so many people can do meal prep and set up tables without getting in each other's way. 10 minutes before the event, the college head showed up, and everything was running smoothly. The event was a lot of fun. Some of the team continued to wander off, some ran the events, and some participated. I was running around as a gopher, letting the college head take credit for the event in front of everyone, not doing any work, but taking credit for it. I made sure to remind her I had to leave right at the end of the event for personal business, in front of the other colleague heads several times. To be extra spiteful, I neglected to stop several team members from wandering off, who'd done no work other than stand around talking, eating, and encouraged several people who'd definitely done 2 hours worth of work to call it a night and thank them for their help. Forgetful me. I also didn't tell team members standing around during events to start cleaning up as things were finishing. All the free food was gone. All the games were over, both students and team members were wandering off into the night, and all of a sudden, college head. Wait, where are you going? There is so much mess, and we've got to put away all the tables and tidy up all the different games, but everyone has left. Op. Yes, we probably should have saved up a few team members to do cleanup, but they've all already done their 2 hours. Anyway, like I told you earlier, I've got some personal business to attend to directly after the event, so I'll see you tomorrow. College head. What personal business is it? This will take over an hour to do all this on my own. Op. I'm sorry, but I said personal business because I wasn't comfortable discussing it with you or the team, as it is quite personal, and I'm going to be late. I wandered off home for my personal business of closing all my curtains and playing Xbox in my underwear, chuckling at the thought of that arrogant woman having to do all that work by herself. The formal complaint she put in for me leaving didn't go anywhere, as I just forwarded the email exchange to management. Sadly, pig-headed people are pig-headed because they don't learn, no matter what. I eventually quit, and a few months later, I was introduced to my replacement's replacement, who was also ready to quit. The next story is titled, You Don't Know That Word? Well, then, obviously you know nothing of this language. I used to work at a Brazilian supermarket in Florida. The customers were pretty much all Brazilians, leading to almost everybody speaking Brazilian, Portuguese. My parents are from there, but I was born in North America. Although I do know how to speak Portuguese, sometimes my American accent bleeds through, and sometimes I don't know a word or two. Prop'll usually understand. But not this one lady. Boy, did she have something to say. I was behind the customer service desk so I couldn't leave, but the lady asked me where something was. It was around the corner, near a certain shelf. I couldn't remember what the word for shelf was, so I think I said, fixture that holds things, or something like that. Fixture that holds things? What the heck is that? Do you even speak Portuguese? Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry I forgot the word for that. I point to the shelf. But what you're looking for is right around it. Keep in mind, the shelf was inside of both of us, but she didn't want to look. You don't speak Portuguese. Get me someone else to help. I'm a little confused, I mean, it's just one word I didn't know. But my manager happens to appear and I figure she's not busy. Keep in mind, this is all in perfect Portuguese. Maria, would you be able to help this woman? Apparently, I don't speak Portuguese, so I'm not able to communicate with her. She doesn't understand anything I'm saying, because, even though it sounds like Portuguese, she said it's not, so, honestly, I'm not really sure what language I'm speaking. But, that doesn't really matter, I guess. She needs help finding, item. Which I said was over there, but I guess she needs to hear that in Portuguese, which, again, I apparently don't speak. It turned out that Maria was well aware of this customer and she complained about everything, so she wasn't surprised that she was acting like an idiot. She almost stopped as she had to stifle some laughter during my monologue. The lady just kind of looked like someone had slapped her with an idiot stick. The next story is entitled Neighbor Wants Her Kids in My Garden. So glad to have found this subreddit, because I have a legit crazy neighbor with boundary issues. I, 29F, don't have any kids, but have my younger sister, 16, living with me for around 10 years, and we have a trampoline still in our back garden from when she was younger. Neighbor to the left of me has 4 kids, and moved in a year ago. 2 weeks ago, Glasgow started getting really good weather, so the kids have been out playing constantly, not an issue. They asked if I could let the kids use the trampoline one day, so I was like sure, but only for a bit because I have friends coming over for some drinks. 7 p.m. comes, I ask them to go home because my 5 friends have shown up, and we're going to be drinking. Cue the crying, they leave the garden upset, but hey, that's not my issue, they've been on it for 3 hours at this point. Their mum pops her head out her bedroom window and asks if they can stay in the garden longer. No? I'm not your babysitter. She's annoyed but drops it. Last week, I come home from some shopping, and to my surprise, find all 4 of the kids in the garden, plus their younger cousin. Ask them to leave, tell them they can't just come into my garden without me there, and they didn't even ask. They refuse to leave, so I shout up at their mum and tell her to get them out the garden. She says, let them play for a bit, you don't even use it. Okay, but still, not your garden? Eventually we get into an argument, and they leave. She's pissed off and shouting saying I'm being a Karen, and I should let them in. I tell her not to ask again because the answer will be no. This happened again the day after, all 4 kids plus their cousin, waiting till I move the car from the drive and heading straight into the garden. So I wake up this morning. I've since put a lock on the trampoline, just a small one on the mesh safety enclosure to stop them opening it up, 'cause I'm petty as duck. Plus it's Saturday, I'm not working today, my day off, and I want a long lie. But no, neighbor decides that at 9 a.m. this morning, her kids are being fired straight out that house with breakfast bars and a bottle of water, and they head straight into the garden. So I can hear them from my window. I look out and tell them to leave. By the time I get downstairs, Mum has descended from her house, and is trying to climb the fence between our gardens, shouting about how I used to let them use it and she's going to call the police for hitting her kids. Great, you do that. I'll be sure to show them the Ring camera footage, which coincidentally also has footage of your husband picking the lock open so your brats can use the trampoline. So long story short, entitled Mother Send Her Kids Into My Garden repeatedly even after being told not to. Calls police on me for harassment and hitting her kids and ends up getting her own husband arrested for theft and housebreaking and criminal damage. Suck it, idiot. The next story is titled 20-something-year-old Calls Mommy Because She Was Mistreated. 10-year hotel vet, long-time lurker in this sub, first time to post. I hear it's therapeutic. Let's find out. The other night I had a guest come down to the lobby and sit and begin to listen to music on her phone. She didn't have headphones in, and the music was very loud with explicit lyrics, but it was 11 at night and fairly slow and I didn't want to give her trouble, so I let it go on for about 10 minutes. Eventually the lounge closed, and 3 to 4 stragglers came walking through the lobby back to their rooms. A few glanced between me and her with a strange look. I just raised my eyebrows to them in acknowledgement, but at this point it still didn't seem like a huge problem, and it wasn't bothering me. Minutes later one of my last arrivals comes in. It's an older lady with the air of someone who's definitely going to leave a review with nothing but complaints, and right off the bat the music from the phone gets ridiculously explicit. I'm hurrying to check this woman in as fast as possible while she's constantly evil-eyeing the lady on the couch and shaking her head in disappointment at me. I get her checked in and she leaves for the room, and at this point I realize I have to do something, so I politely address the lady on the couch. Ma'am, I'm sorry but the sound on the phone will have to be off while you're in the lobby. She shrugged, got up, and walked to her room. That actually went well, right? Cut to the next night. I had run to the kitchen for about 5 minutes to help the restaurant staff close a few things down for the night, and as I'm walking back to the desk I notice the same lady sitting on the couch, and in a chair next to her is a guy about her age. They both appear to be in their mid-20s, way too old for childish behavior, but I immediately knew that's what I was about to get. As I say hi to them, I notice the girl look at the guy and nod. He nods in return. It was obviously an attempt at clandestinely saying, "Yep, that's the guy." Oh good, what's this going to be? I get behind the desk and brace for what these two are about to try to do. The guy asks the girl something along the line of, "Hey, have you heard such and such song?" He's saying it loud enough for me to hear, in a tone that is so obviously planned and staged. He then says he'll play it for her, and immediately starts blasting some weird-ass song from a genre of music I can only describe as hardcore circus-themed EDM, and every other word is duck, crap, or ass. I'm not going to let this get to the point it did the night before, so I immediately and politely tell the guy the sound has to be off. He replies with, "I'm not going to turn it off, but I'll turn it down some." I shut him down and say that no, it needs to be off. He obliges, then begins having a conversation with the girl that is, again, aimed at me. They're basically throwing backhanded insults my way just loud enough for me to hear and acting like they're having a private conversation. At one point the woman actually calls her mom on her cell phone and begins to tell her how badly the hotel is mistreating her. Whatever, I'm not easily offended, and I've seen my fair share of a-holes. Eventually someone coming from the lounge passes through the lobby while talking to someone on his cell phone. The lady yells at him and tells him he is being too loud on his phone and is going to get kicked out. That was enough for me. "Now you're messing with business, you've got to go." I tell them both they are going to need to go to their rooms for the night. They ignore me and act like they didn't hear, so I picked up the phone and pretended to dial security. Security doesn't actually have a phone, they have a radio, but I was hoping the bluff alone would work. It did, and they both got up quickly and scurried off to their room. I got a call from my GM the next day asking me what had happened with these guests. He said that the girl's mom drove to the hotel and demanded to see a manager and screamed for 15 minutes at how rude I had been. I told my GM what had happened, and we shared a laugh. He told me if I had any more issues to just go straight to the cops and have them escorted off the property. Then came night 3. The lady came back down to the lobby holding hands with another girl. They both made sure to hold their hands up so that I could see it and shoot me a passive-aggressive grin. I currently live up north, but I'm from the south and have a thick accent that most people immediately pick up on. I honestly believed that they were trying to bait me into saying or doing something homophobic, assuming that I must be a stereotypical hardcore Southern Christian gay-hatin' Klansman or something. They stood at our local brochure cabinet and browsed while talking under their breath. Not loud enough for me to hear, but I'm sure it was aimed at me. A few minutes later the guy joins them, and the conversation becomes loud enough for me to hear, and it's definitely more insults thrown my way. At this point I decided it was enough. I told them they were going to need to return to their rooms or I would have security escort them off the premises. They demanded to know why, and I told them the truth as best as I could put it. Because none of you have emotionally matured past middle school and I won't sit hit and be disrespected for a second night because you fail to understand why we can't have curse words blaring in a place of business. The girl said something along the lines of, "Did you not learn your lesson today? I guess I'll have to call my mom again." I told her to go ahead, her mom could be escorted off the property as well, and they stormed off to their room. Got a call from my GM the next day. Mommy had been back. He had promptly ended their reservation a day early. I love my GM. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.